Needed to dump the trash, ran out of memory. So yeah, clearing debris fields. So it's just like with Misha. She's running on a circulation library, but that library is always changing because the experiences that you experience, say, throughout the course of an hour, 5 minutes, a day, depending on the interactions or the interactive relationship that we have with our graphical user interface, our mirrors, with all the other folks that we interact with, say, in a given period of time, right? It's one of the reasons why, as a child, and I know that Alan Watts, who's another teacher who's really great at this, the more time, and Aaron even mentioned this to me uh, uh, last week when he was telling me that he was going to move from the Big Island here, and he said he was either going to head up to Elko, Nevada, and out to Arizona someplace. And he said the reason he wanted to do that was to spend more time being isolated. And as we got deeper into that conversation, what it really means is you want what we call downtime, or time to self-reflect on your journey, to have more time to be with just yourself, with, right, the relationship that we have with God consciousness, the source in which it all began, right? So that's called we call that communing, like a commune, building a commune. Communing, which means communicating with our true self, our inner self, with our inner God, the one within us. We all have access to God consciousness, okay? The source in which it all began. Unless your soul is gone, right? But you're still conscious and aware of yourself. So if you're conscious and still aware of yourself, and you want to seek to have a communion, a one-on-one relationship with one, to experience what love is, one is always there. I know that because I experienced that in me. That's how I recovered my spirit, right? So now we're back to the lady that had a question about the addictions, which is loading a pattern, which is called a geometric sound and light pattern, into memory. And that represents an experience in frequency and vibration. What our consciousnesses experience by virtue of experiencing the program elements, like in elementals, like in molecules, represented by the fire codes, represented by the frequencies. Letters are numbers, numbers are energy, consciousness energy, right? Okay, so for example, I had to kick all kinds of addictions or memories. It simply means is that I'm getting rid of that program. And I've had to just transmute. Let's put it this way, in 2019, I was dumping what you know what a memory dump is, right? Clear the cache in your software. I was dumping gazillion bits and bytes of visual mathematical information that were running in my libraries of what I was using as information I was aware of for the work that we do. From a polarity integrated point of view, a guardian perspective, if you will, which is to run a clear channel, right? Booming antenna, higher frequencies, higher density, right? So if you recognize by virtue of your own experiences in what's known as a disease state, dis-ease means you're not at ease. You're not comfortable with yourself. It means that you're holding something in memory as a result of an experience that's still being held in memory that has yet to be, if you will, dissolved, transmuted, so that you're no longer experiencing what that does. Now we're into cause and effect, right? Which is the effect of the frequency, or if you will, the information, the visual mathematical information, which is represented by the codes, which represent by the activation, a code activation, which is a code letter. Now we're back into the reversal currents, which is meant to drain your energy. So when you're losing voltage, what happens? Your metabolites slow down, and that compromises your immune system. right? And then it becomes what we call a swamp. And that's what, and so now we're back to the acid and alkaline end of things, right? Because the use of an electron creates an acid. So the more mental operations that you're running as a cognitive function to process an enormous amount of visual mathematical information, then you're using an enormous amount of biovoltage in order to process all the math, which is all the music, which is all the codes, right? And so you're running that. That's what your software is running. So your consciousness is running all those codes. As you're a software operator, you're running software. You're an operator, a tech operator, a biotech operator, right? A biofield, the field, right? So you're operating a computer, supercomputer. So, you got RAM, which is read-active memory. So you have things that are held in memory that you realize that you don't want to experience anymore because you realize they don't serve you. Because the underlying causality of that is to replicate or reproduce an undesirable effect that doesn't serve you in terms of your ability to be in a state of love and joy, which means your energy is up, you're feeling healthy, and all of the coded instruction sets that represent what you experience in software is all running at what I used to call optimal performance, which means your vision is great. In other words, everything that was designed as software, which runs everything that you're experiencing through the physical body, which is represented by that software package, is running as it was intended by the original creator of that software. Okay. So that's why I mentioned my grandmother one time. I said, there ain't no way they're ever going to be able to run this the same way that I did. Okay. I've metaphorically sort of described that as where a goddess comes up to me and says, listen, I came up with a new design and a new DNA, a new software development. Oh, really? You want me to take it out for a test ride? Right. Are you working for quality control here? Right. I'll be more than happy to test your software, girl. I got us. Right. I'll be more than happy to take your software for a spin. Take it for a spin? Yeah, I'll take it for a spin. Let's see how it runs. Brrr, buzz right through all those lines of communication, right? And collapsing all those fake timelines so that more people are experiencing the one, pulling those soul fragments back in so they can experience more love in their heart, right? Sort of like that. And so they won't be able to duplicate it. They can duplicate when you look at me, that's easy to duplicate, right? And the proof of that is you're seeing me in the mirror. You wouldn't be able to see what I look like through your mirror, in my mirror that I'm communicating to you with, if you didn't have the ability to break down and translate those codes on the visible light spectrum, right? The difference is the operator of the vehicle, the operator of the software. That's a tech operator, right? And that becomes what I call a roadmap. The roadmap, which is represented by the life book, right? So I've described it as an off-road course. To explain it to anybody, it would take forever to do that. Because the manner in which the work that a polarity integrator does just happens to be like that, It's like, how much time do you have? But it's not going to be experienced by somebody else that way, because not only are they not what I am as in soul and spirit, but when you're on fire, you're naturally doing something different all the time because you're like a wanderer. It's like a Star Trek navigator, right, that's on fire to go exploring, to expand the universe of possibilities that are infinite, because you know that you're running on infinite unconditional love that is made manifest into the greater diversification of other experiences that have never been experienced by anybody. So it's like you're putting an original stamp in music and frequencies by virtue of the creation that has now been manifest in a creation that is a beautiful, spectacular way in which an artist will produce that, generate that. So that's an original musician. So I'm an original musician. I'm not a copycat. So when you know that you represent the one, law of one, which is the law of spheres, which is the law of balance, which is simply described by the law of least effort, which means it takes no effort to be able to generate unconditional love on autopilot without having to think about it. So when you think of it as density, it simply means if when you go out into the forest somewhere and you see the way that water works, water is seeking the pathway to do what? The least amount of work to go where it wants to go. Right? It doesn't want to have to sit there and use all of its energy as consciousness and spirit to use all of its water trying to break down an embankment that is denser and denser and denser. No, man, this water's got to flow. We got to flow. Otherwise, you end up in the dam, right? So when you put this in the context of carbon cycles and water cycles, what I call recycling center, right, between the input and the output, now you're into the pH of the planet. And then the auric energy field that is now being emitted from the planet itself. I had a picture, I still have it in my library, when this planet ship was pink. On my diamond crystal heart pink rose. So I'm a flower. Absolutely. And the beauty of being a polarity integrator as an oversoul mated, what we call being like a mated chip, right? It's mean you're one. There is no separation. We're giving love to the all creation forever, right? And so I modulate, the FM between, as it's defined between the masculine and the feminine, which would be the left and the right. Now you're back to the quad function of 4, right? And when you have the cross, you got 4 pieces of the pie, right? And then you can do that with the 12, the 3, the 6, the 9, back to the 12, right? In a spherical way. And you have all the lines of communication, which are circuits, which are magnetic circuits that are opening and closing and firing. Codes, right? Code activation. So it means that, as I think Arena said to me one time, brother, you got codes. Well, the only way that she could know that is by experiencing it, by the transmission of communicating to her through the motherboard for her to be able to experience that. This means there isn't any separation between who she is and who I am when you're a motherboard operator, right? And so that means that the line of communication between me and her, she got the codes. Otherwise, she wouldn't know that, right? That's what we do is code activations. Absolutely. To make sure that this was going to go off the way it's supposed to go off, as it would naturally be activated, which is a cycle, which is a cosmic level cycle. And so, that's good news, beautiful news. It's sort of, the way I describe it with me, it's sort of anticlimactic. When we celebrate our lives with love and joy, then we are naturally celebrating that fact every day. Which means it comes natural for us to experience being in a state of love and joy. Which means we're in love with our Creator, we're in love with the grand creation, we're in love with our mirror. Right? So I had to get rid of a number, as we say, addictions. I still have some that I have difficult time with. One is potato chips, okay? And the other was ice cream. I got rid of ice cream and pizza, right? But it fluctuates. It depends. because I realized it's not like I don't know what I'm putting into my computer, what I have to process out of my computer as a waste product. So you know how energy works. Energy in, energy out. Garbage in, garbage out. So now we're getting into density. We're operating in lower density here. So when you're operating in lower density, putting food, or if you will, codes, program information, like a bag of potato chips. A bag of potato chips is a program interface. That is an API. That means you're applying your consciousness to apply the codes, which represent the programming codes, in a bag of Lay's potato chips. Now you're going to run the program. Now you're going to load it. It's going to go into memory. Now you remember what it was like to experience potato chips. I want to experience it good because it was good. I enjoyed that experience. What folks don't realize, particularly when they were children growing up, is the whole idea was to load people up with binary programs so that they don't know the difference between binary artificial light intelligence and trinary, which is Mama Earth. So you know that when you're getting stuff from her that is trinary, you're getting high-speed voltage. Eating coconuts, avocados, watercress, garlic, right? I'll just give you a few examples of how I regulate sort of what I put into me. In the morning, I drink a smoothie, and that smoothie is contained with tart cherry juice, pineapple juice, alkaline water that runs about 8.5, okay, green bananas, along with cold pressed, 100% not concentrate apple juice, okay, and aloe vera. Put it in a blender, but I make it by the gallon and put it in the refrigerator. And then what I do is I take usually a heaping teaspoon of spirulina, it's chlorophyll, put the chlorophyll in there, and then kratom, which is, again, plant medicine. Okay? Blend it up. Okay? That's a high. It won't take you 30 minutes, and next thing you know, wow, I'm high. What it is you just got a huge burst of voltage. Your cells love you now. All right. That means that the waste stream, you know what a wastewater treatment plant is, right? Input, output. What I put into my body now is running at a higher rate of speed. That means that my heart, which is a vortex, is now spinning visual information, mathematical codes at a high rate of speed. And guess what that does? Activates more codes, the higher frequency codes, the elements, the molecules, the spirit molecule. So now we're back into loading programs or loading information into memory, and what we're choosing to put into our computer, our supercomputer. So now we're back into neurons and neuron chemical messengers, which means you can rebuild your body and rehabilitate yourself, which means repair all your circuits. Because the original design will activate old codes that have been dormant. You know what I mean about dormant codes? You know what atrophy is, right? It's like they're asleep. Wake them up. Then you need more fire, which increases the speed of the wave. Right? Because we've certainly been releasing codes. That's called waking up. Remember the codes. Remember the codes in 12-strand DNA. The original 12 tribes and clans. Now they're remembering the original template. Yeah, see? So essentially what it boils down to is you want to get rid of all the binary goo. The binary goo codes. The Metatronic reversal current stuff. All the AI alien machinery. All the Orion stuff. All the corporate military hierarchical stuff. Where it's all based on command functions. Top-down command functions, right? They have a chain of command, a sequence chain of command. You go from a private, right, to a corporal, then a three-striper. And if you look at the American military uniform, like U.S. Navy, World War II, and my dad was a full commander in the United States Navy. He was a squadron commander. He used to wear what were known as the Browns, which is a brown khaki shirt with a black tie, right? And a pair of khaki pants with black shoes, right? And then a cap that was brown. Notice the colors, black and brown. Remember World War II? Mussolini? Remember Hitler? Two groups known as the brown shirts and the black shirts. The black shirts were the SS, death heads. Okay. So when you look at what's known as a chevron, when you go to look at the stripes on American military uniform with the brown shirts, right, like Marine Corps, okay, those are Nazi chevrons. That's right. Now, of course, you'd have to go back in history and see the connection that all these folks had through bloodline, Illuminati, genetics, and bloodlines with who all these folks are, right, between the Vatican, the Rothschilds, or if you will, what's known as their triad, which is negative, magnetic polarity. Their triad is negative. Okay, so that would be Vatican, which is their spiritual capital, right, which is satanic or Luciferian. Now you're into the Anunnaki and the Dracos. Then you have the financial capital, which is London, which is known as the City of London. Because you can drive in there and you can see the reptile, the figurines, right? And then you have the military establishment, which is the Pentagon. So the Pentagon is the military arm of enforcement, gatekeepers. Then you have the financial capital, which is in London. And of course, they have other satellite offices, like in, where is it? Hong Kong. And you can, I think it's the Bolshoi Theater in Russia, Moscow. And you'll see the coat of arms of who? Baron von Rothschild. Okay? Inverters. Okay? And so that